Inhale, hands to heart center, taking a breath in. Shanti, shanti, shanti. And exhale, release. Thank you. Hi, Sharon. Nice to see you. So I was looking at the Shri M video and I was making just a few notes about things that were quite interesting. And one of them is, before we started the workshop, someone had asked me more about what is Kundalini? How can we study it more authentically from some of the ancient writings? And as you see, Shri M was just talking about the Sundari Liri, which the Sanskrit channel has a really nice explanation also. But this is one of the earlier texts that speaks about Kundalini. So it may be something that you want to delve into a little bit more. And as you see, Shri M also made the distinction between the heart and the head. A classical yoga practice puts a lot of emphasis on detachment and disassociation with the senses in order to realize, to have self-realization or self-awareness. You come to the same self-awareness, but with a different nuanced path through Tantra, where Tantra is really centered with the Shakti principle at the heart center and tells us yoga boga. Boga is a really, really cool word. You see boga in the sutras of Patanjali, you see it all through the literature. It is enjoyment, that which brings enjoyment and happiness. And as we saw through the goddesses already that we've studied, Tantra says, use the energy, the energetics that the goddesses can bring to you to enjoy, to experience life, and then go deeper, take that step deeper. Because that is the spiritual path to go on, if you want to. He also spoke about the inner and outer tantric worship or practice. And that's where the tattvas, the evolutes come into, the yantra with the triangle and the bindu, which we're going to really address, I think in two sessions, we'll really go into the symbolism of the yantra and the Sri Vidya yantra. He also talks about the mantra. And what is a bija mantra? Azadeh asked this question before. He very nicely explains it in just a few words, where he says that the bija mantra is just a sound that energizes. So energizes that energy at the Kundalini, let's say, for example, at the Muladhara chakra. And that is a basic point of Tantra, is the whole system of Kundalini and chakras and energy systems within the body, and how to energize the innate wisdom that is already there, and that we can become aware of it through our practice, whether the practice is mantra, jhana yoga, which is self-study, like what we're doing right now, or if it's using a yantra, using an image to help with your contemplation or meditation. Were there other points in the Shri M that you'd like to share, or that were particularly personal to you in your practice or in your understanding that you'd like to share?
I just found that listening to the Shri video and his voice, that in itself was very much like Bidra mantra. I love the energy of his voice, the calming, the love, and also his helpers. We miss much of that in our culture where people respect the elders so much.
Mhm. It's something I've noticed too, Sharon, and it's one of those things. It's a point of memory that just stays with me forever. You know how we all have different times in our life, like especially if you're a mother, you know, we're holding a child or whatever. Those are like photographs of memory that just never leave your head. And it's the same thing, as you just said, with the voice or the energy that I got from some of the gurus that I've met that just stay with you forever. And they're such compassionate people, and they're so centered and grounded in and the way they share their life experience with you is so humble and so generous. Well, wait, Barbara, you have to unmute there.
Mute. Yeah, I agree with you. His voice and his gentleness. He's this very refined soul who's encouraging us to find liberation in this journey of trying to understand this misunderstood word of tantric.
Mhm.
And he's saying that it's for everyone. It doesn't matter where it's going to take you, or if it's going to take you anywhere. You know, who knows? The feeling, he gives over this feeling that, will it take you anywhere? Well, that's your choice.
Mhm.
It's going to liberate you and your mind to see if you desire it or don't, or you have no desire for it. Hopefully it does. And he gives it in this unassuming way that he doesn't take himself so seriously. He finds humor in, he finds humor in the misconception that it's all about sex and it's all sexual, and this divine beauty and this divine adoration is really about our planet, or it's about who and where we are, or it's to share with each other. I find it fascinating. I loved how he used, there was just a minute, there's the Debbie and he interacts these words. So I was constantly going off on tangents like, just a minute, why is he using that word and bringing it back in, you know, because the Debbie is goddess, but he's using it, he's mixing his language, his Hindi and then the English. And once you understand how he's using it, he's saying to you, understand, it all comes back to this female. It is divine woman. You study the goddesses, and somewhere at the end of it, I get the feeling from him that he takes the child, the female child, and the old woman, and the beauty and the non-beauty, and he weaves them all together. And this is just that divine female, the Shakti, if that's the right way of using it. It's just, I found him fascinating. And I've looked at some of his other things. I like some of his earlier things rather than the things that are, but maybe that's because we get hooked on something we're trying to understand right now.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, Barbara, thank you. And as I said before, he's not a tantric practitioner per se.
No.
But he has really steeped himself in so much knowledge, because Tantra, as he said when he was explaining the Muladhara chakra, it's a construct, it's a foundation from which to walk upon a spiritual path. And we all have different ways of perceiving reality. And so he's just sharing that, you know, here's another way to do it. And and here's the literature, and here's the mantra sounds, and here's the yantra on how you can walk in this path if you would like to. And I do like the fact, like you just alluded to also, when you said he sees the old and the young woman all in one, because that's again that whole cycle of creation and destruction going on and on and on through millennium that he speaks to also. And the Shakti principle is eternal. That just keeps going, and it's an energy. Mhm.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Okay. With the mantras, a vibrational sound, and the energy, and how important is the pronunciation? Because first I was thinking, okay, Sanskrit. How can we, as foreigners from all different languages, actually pronounce correctly the sound for the proper vibrational energy? And then I thought, okay, but in India it's the same. No one speaks Sanskrit. They either speak Hindu, this, that, or that, all the different languages, right? So they're probably, are they saying it correctly or not? How important is it for us to get it correct, the sound and how we pronounce each word, each syllable, each everything, for it to have the correct vibrational energy?
There are two answers. One, it's super important. I don't think there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone who is a true mantra teacher who says don't worry about pronunciation. At the same time, at the very same breath, they say do your best and don't worry. Do not let that prohibit you from doing the practice. Now, if we remember when we were doing the 300-hour, Sanskrit is simple and complex. Remember, there's 5 different places from which to pronounce the sounds, the Sanskrit alphabet. You have it way back in the throat, and then top of the throat, middle of the throat, next to the teeth, and then at the teeth, and then the lips are closed.
Mm-hmm.
And we pronounce those vowels and those consonants from the different places, and that's how they're categorized. And when you see the English translation, it's really hard to know, was that the na or the ka or the da or the ta from which category? Remember, like a THA, there were 4 different types. So that's where you want to understand a little bit of Sanskrit so you can read the original, and then you can have the proper intent on how you want to pronounce it. So unfortunately, in some ways, the more you know, the more you have to work at it. You can't claim ignorance anymore. So
Ignorant.
I know, sorry, now you know, Tara, you actually have to find out, is it the THA sound from the middle of the palate or near the teeth?
Wow. Yeah, it's good.
That being said, every teacher that I have spoken with, and that was just, my times in India, they say, do not let that stop you from doing a mantra practice. I had a long discussion with Kieran last night about mantra too, about how do we share mantras with other people. And this is something that, probably 25 years ago, I was just saying, oh, what is mantra? I was in India. I thought I would buy some CDs and things like that. And every time I was ready to pick up a CD, it was a Vedic mantra. I had somebody stop by, strangers, say, be very careful, be very careful. I go, what are they talking about? Because I didn't have the knowledge then to really connect that energetic of that sound vibration. I just thought it was pretty sounds and whatever, and I would just learn it. All along the way in my studies, I've heard about the importance of understanding that. And that is why in sharing mantras, you want to be very authentic and only share that which you have experienced. Like, You saw in the film with Sri M that at first he was a little reticent about the 15 syllable mantra that goes with the Sundari Liri or Tripura Sundara. He was very reticent about that because there's, as we spoke before, there's a certain pronunciation and meter and even frequency and tone that you chant that. And you don't want to mess it up, especially as a teacher when you're transmitting this information, right? So you want it to be very authentic. When I was speaking with Kieran, she was asking about some mantras. And again, I told her I probably have experience with maybe 6 or 7 mantras that I personally use in my own practice. And I will not share other mantras with other people. I mean, I will share it academically and say, yeah, you know, here's the syllables, here's what it is. But I will not chant it and then share it with somebody else until I have energetically experienced it myself. So that's another thing to look at when you're studying mantras, Terry, is that you want, to the best of your ability, to pronounce it correctly in terms of the Sanskrit. And then to the best of your ability, unfortunately, we can only claim ignorance for so long. But then even behind mantra, there is a god and a goddess that presides over that mantra, and we should give homage to them before we even start the mantra. You know, there's so much more backstory behind mantra.
Okay, thank you. That was good.
Okay. Well, this may be a short evening.
Terry, I have,
Yes.
Terry, on the follow-up to your mantras, I have destroyed Corinne's ears on numerous times. With a strong Somerset, a strong English accent, and not knowing the words, even after 5 repetitive go-throughs. So it's, I've come to the conclusion, and I think I used to think it used to be similar to say if you're in church and someone says amen or amen. And I would think the same with the mantra. I now come to the conclusion it's better to have vibration. You can stay within in the spirit of it without knowing the true pronunciation if you have that vibration in the mouth. And that's that draw out. And whether I exchange, if I substitute the words that Corinne is using in the mantra for Om or Shrim or Hrim, those words will keep a vibration that has a connection with the mantra. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and thank you, Barbara. Those are all really good points. And what I like about that short little, I think 13-minute YouTube about mantra is how they really explain so nicely how we go from the grosser manifestation of just mouthing the words to really feeling that inner vibration inside. And so if we have a pure intent, whether we're pronouncing it correctly or not, we're going to have a benefit from it.
But did not Sri make the point that the original, I don't know what the right word is, the first beings that used mantra did so intuitively? And is it not possible that we all have those sounds in us if we don't get in our own way? So I have found for myself that not diving in to mouthing, for want of a better word, the mantra, but being in the presence of someone who is expressing the mantra in a true and pure form, just keeping quiet and then allowing that vibration to enter into me, so that then I start to make a noise, which may or may not sound anything like that, but it is in harmony with or on a similar vibration to. And ultimately, if one follows that path, then eventually the mantra will come.
Yes.
And it may not be the same for me as it is for someone else. This is where I get into trouble again, where people attach themselves to the right pronunciation or the right word, whatever. That's not the important thing for me. It is the process, that is, it's the vibration, it's the energy of that. I mean, I've been in a room where everyone is chanting Om, and what that does to your body and your mind, even if all you're doing is Om, but everybody else is doing it, it starts to not invade, but actually go into your body. So that was going to be my question. And I was really listening to that when I was listening to the video about mantra, 10 tips or whatever it was for doing mantra, was the benefit of actually just listening, just being in that space to listen, not to yourself perhaps, but to someone else who is chanting authentically. And then, going from there, so to speak, going from there.
Yeah, no, that I think everything you said is really, really valid, and which is why in the very beginning, when Terry asked her question, I said that real Vedic mantra practitioners and teachers will say it's really important to pronounce it correctly, which means what does that mean? To pronounce something correctly, what does that mean? That means that you put the time and the effort and the intent to actually doing it properly. Whether you achieve it or not, I don't know. But it's that you actually try. It's not haphazard. And then, as you said, these mantras, these sounds, Sanskrit is built. That whole language is built on the intuition of the rishis, as you just said. And these are Shakti, because they're Shakti vibrations that occur in Mother Divine. So all those things are coming together. And then it's a strange thing in this time of COVID and Zoom, because just as you said, Annette, when we're in conversation with a group of people, even if we have different opinions, when that vibration, we can feel the vibration of our compañeros when we're having a conversation. And you know that there's this exchange going on and it's very harmonious, or it's not. But in Zoom, it's really a little bit strange. We don't have that physical vibration going between us in conversation. And sometimes growing up in the Catholic Church, I also think that the Catholicism has a lot of rituals, has a lot of mantra going on and prayers. And you're right. I think when the audience or the churchgoers, they're all sitting quietly, it's that beautiful vibration that's going with the priest saying whatever.
With the Gregorian chant is
yeah.
I mean, the Gregorian chant is really interesting when you compare it to, or not compare it to, but think about it in the same terms as the sound vibrations of the mantras.
Yeah. And I think it was brought up in our last session too, forgot who brought it up, that whether it's mantra or meditation, it's all about raising the global vibration or consciousness. Because I remember, again, and this is when in my very ignorant days, one of the monks of Dalai Lama came here, I forget which one. And he gave a talk out at the University for Peace. And I remember sitting there asking him, why are you here? What are you doing? What do you do all day? Why do you do it? Now I think, oh my God. But he just kind of looked at me and was so nice about it. And he just went on saying, well, this is my calling. And I meditate for humanity. And I go, what? Because I wasn't ready to hear it. But that's what each of us do. And I feel, whether you're on the spiritual path or not, whether you've actually said, I've learned about a certain spiritual path and I want to walk on it, or unconsciously you just are living a moral life. We're all touching each other with these vibrations. And what Sri M was talking about in the Sundari Liri is specifically that foundation of Tantra practice with mantra and with the Sri Vidya yantra, which is, I can't wait to talk about it, you guys. It's so cool. With that, it's all about harmonizing these vibrations.
We used to do a practice with someone. This was in Bermuda. He was a teacher. He had been a sadhu, but he was also a musician. And he used to do these basically, he didn't put them across as being a japa yoga or, you know, the mantra or bhakti or any of that. He would just say, you know, come, we'll sing. And he would start and everybody would join in, and it was always, you know, don't be embarrassed. You don't have to sound good. You don't have to sound. And what would happen is after a while, all the different vocal tones would harmonize. And suddenly what had become a very discordant kind of it was almost inevitable that we would all gradually find our place. And within that place, then we would all become part of a greater whole. That was absolutely amazing. Mind you, I mean, it used to take quite a while, you know, we'd be humming away there for about 10 or 15 minutes. But even the people who would say, oh, you know, I'm tone deaf, I can't do that, would find a place to be. Yeah. And I was listening to a talk this afternoon. There's a big summit going on about collective trauma and how to deal with it in the world. It's the second summit they've done now. There was one last year that was really interesting. It just started today. And there was a guy called Stephen Porges talking, and he's a PhD. And his study has been, he's created this term, I think it's polyvagal response. And he was talking about trauma not being as a result of an event or an event. In other words, someone is traumatized by an event, but it is the biophysiological and neurophysiological effect of that and how that stays in the body. Yep. And so he was talking about all of that kind of thing. And one of the things he said was the issue around Zoom, because he said that the most ideal thing that we can do for each other is to make each other feel safe. And if you can make someone feel safe, then they can deal with their trauma. But if you can't make them feel safe, and we're all traumatized, we all carry trauma with us, so we're all what did he call them? What we try and do is exactly what this musician was doing, in bringing everybody with all their discordant notes into a place of harmony, just by his presence, just bringing us all into that place. Yes. And it is that same thing. It's making that connection. And he had a word for it, and I've completely forgotten the word. I should have written it down because I thought, oh God, I bet those guys would have been interested in this. Yes. And he said, you can actually do it through Zoom. You can achieve that, but it requires a different way of being to a certain extent, a more intent concentration. Because we use all kinds of different signals that you can still pick up, though, even though you're physically separated. So it was a very interesting discussion. Yep. And it kind of fitted in with the whole mantra thing as well.
Yep. No, that's lovely. Sharon, you had something you wanted to say.
Yes. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I just think that look at what we're doing here. If I were to read the text or watch the stream video on my own, it's one level of experience. But here we are we're separated uh, many thousands of miles from each other and in front of a computer and not authentic, but there's that vibration and the energy of great, beautiful, lovely energy exchange. So there's definitely a lot of truths to what Annette and Corinne and Barb and Terry have brought up. Um, it's just amazing how with the right, with the positive energy, it just vibrates and it extends out.
Yeah. No. Mhm. Thank you for sharing that, Sharon. Yes, that's it. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to have all these resources to ourselves. And what strikes me too, and I'll let you speak in 1 minute, Terry. What strikes me is that what Annette said, what the Buddha has said, what the Sutra says, what Tantra says, and Shriyam just said it too. Where does that
You should
energy
put my name in with all of
activate?
those.
Right at the Muladhara chakra, right at the base, the foundation of our security and support system. Tantra does mean, in some definitions, the support system. So all these different ways through time, humanity has spoken about this and how we can relieve our suffering in many different words and different practices. Terry, you wanted to share something?
Just more from let's say how can I put that? Talking about how we're talking about how on Zoom the energy and the vibrations can come across. It's because it's just when we relate to it that time is not linear, and then that healing can be done from a distance, for instance, and with through intention and through manifestation and all these possibilities. So when that is in that, and maybe in sometimes in Zoom it can't be because people don't have that intent or that vibration or not connected. But when we're all connected, we can, yes, we can create that energy through time and space all in one moment.
Yes, and that's what the goddess is. Remember, we have the goddess of time, Kali. We have the goddess of space. So I mean, that's so cool with intent, because I mean, as an energy healer, you know that the distance means nothing. I've seen it with my own eyes. The distance means nothing, and I was just amazed of what can happen. So yeah, there's no limits, to the power of the mind. And where it can bring the energy.
Yeah, as soon as that mind opens up to a certain acknowledgement of something, that energy can come in. Like the energy is always there, but unless we open the door, and I think Sri M said something about that, or one of these other things about when it's not there, it's not manifested. But when you open it up, then we bring in the power of the goddesses, right? And it's not there latent for us. But if we open up, then we give them the power to manifest.
Yeah, because it's always there. And that's one of the big, what do you want? I want to say foundations or support of Tantra is that you are Shakti. You have all this already, this energy, this potency in you. It's like Annette just said, getting rid of all the fluff on the sides and all over the place so you can realize that you have it and then delve into it yourself. Yeah.
Doesn't make it easy though.
No.
It's the not doing. It's the great not doing. Being okay with that. It's be, don't do.
Anyway.
Yes, I had the neatest experience when I was at an ashram in Pennsylvania a few years ago, getting my 200. And in the morning, we would chant for an hour with the mula beads, 100, I think it's 108 times.
Yeah.
And we were chanting the
Gayatri
mantra. And it kind of relates to what Annette was saying earlier. We were just chanting in unison, and the energy was so strong. But at one point, I just decided to not chant and just listen. Oh, it was so powerful. Just different energy, being a part of the chanting and then stepping back and you get more vibration,
Yeah.
and closing off one of the senses, the vocal sense, then the other sense takes over, and just feeling the energy was quite interesting.
Oh, that's really a lovely experience to have, and that's also another manifestation of Tripura Sundari, the goddess Lalita, the young girl experiencing, playing that divine play of life, which Ganasan also, Barbara, kept reminding us, just play and
Play. Mm-hmm.
so when let's say you want to take up mantra japa as part of your practice. So perhaps you will start with the beads, the mala beads, or with the timer, and then with a certain mantra, and then really intellectually thinking, oh my God, am I pronouncing this syllable or this sound from the back of my throat or the top of my throat? So you start with all these technical things, but then as it is with practice and over time, it becomes more refined and becomes more of an interior practice until, as in we saw in that video, the mantra really becomes a silent, still practice. But we all start somewhere. The other way to look at it is through the gunas. So we can have a very sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic practice. And we can look at it from the mantra point of view or from asanas. So let's say you have an asana practice. It can become very sattvic, even though it is vigorous, if the attitude in the mind is very calm. And if your breath reflects that, so you're not panting and things like that, then it becomes a sattvic practice. And that may be for you at that time, that's exactly good for you. Let's say for whatever reason, you want a rajasic practice, or you don't even know you're having a rajasic practice. That's a little more frenetic, aerobic kind of a practice where your mind is not calm, but you are having yoga boga. You're enjoying that experience. It's bringing you happiness. And I see that a lot of people, me included, when I first started yoga, it was for the physical part of it, whether it was the physical stimulation and then the relaxation or whatever. I had a very rajasic practice. And some days I still say, I even know, I go, you know what? I'm doing a rajasic practice and that will bring me to where I want to be. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm starting rajasic. You can have a very tamasic practice, and that's when you're not really there. It's mechanical. You're going through the practice and it's, you know, and that's okay too. We all have different days. So let's say you have a tamasic practice one day, but what you did do was practice tapas. Tapas is one of the niyamas, which is austerity and discipline. So maybe you didn't really want to be there. You couldn't even bring yourself to actively be present in your practice, but you did it anyway. So you were observing one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And Tantra says, use all of these experiences to refine your perception of this life experience here and where you want to go with it. And the same thing in mantra, and that video said it so well. You start with the gross manifestation and work your way in. It can be rajasic when you say, I got to do 108. I got to do 108. Okay, after I do that, I got to do a second round. It's like, I guess when you play golf, you do one round and then you push yourself and you do another round or whatever. And then it kind of becomes mechanical. But that, you know what? That's not a bad thing in and in itself. It's your attitude of how you did it and when you did it and how you judge it, if you judge it, or did you just observe the experience? Because also with Tantra and yoga, as we refine our practice, it's about stepping back and witnessing it and cultivating that power to witness. So we go from the gross manifestation of actually doing the practice to now becoming the witness to the practice. Why do we want to become a witness to the practice? That's a real question.
Oh, sorry.
Wake
I thought
up,
that was
girl.
rhetorical.
You guys look comatose. But why do we want to be a
Speaking
witness?
of Tomasic,
Last question of the night. Why do we want to cultivate being a witness to our own practice?
Mm.
well, if you're a witness and you're not attached to it, you're not in it. It's not about you. It's you're sort of looking at it from another perspective or a higher perspective, perhaps even. I don't know.
It doesn't have, like you say, it doesn't have to be higher or lower,
No.
but it's changing your perception. Remember, a yoga practice, tantric practice, is a lot about changing our perceptions from being within this mind-body complex with all the senses, yoga boga, enjoying them, living, playing through life, and then witnessing what's happening, because in yoga and tantra, it is built upon the fact or the belief that you are a soul. You are pure consciousness. You are not this body. You are not your mind. You are beyond that, or you are something different. And so when we can step back and just witness what we're doing, then if somebody insults you, you never get your feelings hurt because you're not the mind. You are this pure consciousness. If somebody cuts you off while you're driving, they didn't cut you off. They just cut Corinne off. This mind-body Karman Yudin, but they didn't affect my pure consciousness at all. And so part of the practice, as we refine mantra, as we refine asana, as we refine pranayama practice or meditation, it is cultivating that perception of being a witness, of being the impartial observer. And that just develops over time. But again, we don't have the excuse of ignorance, because now we know, okay, that is one of the steps that just organically you go to. And it happens in different
Is that
stages.
non-attachment?
Yeah, that's non-attachment, but, and he said it too, Shriyan was talking about it. It's not so much that you tamp down your responses to an emotional or physical stimuli, but that you choose no longer to be affected by it.
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when we're sitting in meditation or mantra practice, we physically, almost rigidly say, I'm sitting here for 20 minutes and I'm not going to move a muscle. And it gets to the point where all we are attached to is that thought to not move, right? So that's where we're trying to sublimate or dominate our attachment. There comes a time when we say, I choose not to react to that muscular contraction that's bothering me, or that itch, fly that's gone across my face or whatever. But it's not that I'm ignoring it. I'm not ignoring it. I'm accepting it. And now I'm the observer. I'm simply observing what is happening to this carbon unit of a body. Because it's not happening to me, the soul. It's just happening to the sheath that I am experiencing life in.
Poor sheath.
Yeah, poor sheath.
Yeah, very itchy one.
I'm itching right now. You can't see me doing it. All right, and this is going to be something interesting. I think as we understand how we can refine our practice by changing that perception and becoming the observer. So I think I'm going to end it unless we have anything else that you'd like to bring up. And then Saturday, I think it's Bhairavi and Bagalamukhi. Two goddesses of energy in motion and energy in stillness. And then that will really give a nice full circle of different qualities of energy and wisdom between the 10 goddesses.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So shall we get one Om together?
Yes.
I'm going to leave all the audio on and see what happens. I don't really know. All right, hands are
Sharon has to come on. Sharon's mute there. Sharon,
Yeah.
unmute.
there. Thanks, Sharon. Let's try Om one time and see what happens.
Okay.
All right, take a breath in. Ah. Shanti,
Shanti, Shanti.
Namaste, ladies. Thank you so much. It was a lovely discussion. I enjoyed it very much. And I'll see you guys on the weekend. Have a great week.
Super. Nice. Thank you. Night.
Thank you. Good night,
Everybody.
everyone. Thank you.
Night.
Night.